Say that's a stream. That's us. Whoop. Hair's a mess. That's good. Was outside before. Beautiful day outside here on Long Island. Whew. I gotta brief you on some of these conversations I had here today too. Let's just move the camera over here a little bit, make it look good. We got the lighthouse in. That's not the Montauk Lighthouse, but it's a lighthouse. Now, that lighthouse goes back. You know where that lighthouse goes back to? I think it's East River Savings Bank. Gone. A long time ago. I think my grandfather gave that to me. My grandfather's been gone for decades, just absolute decades. All right, let's get down over here. Not that you really need to hear about my grandfather, but learned a lot about him. He told me no matter what I do, no matter what it is that you do for a career, just try to be the best at it. I don't know if I've lived up to that one or not. I tell you, I wish I could have. Wasn't, but we're changing things around a little bit, so that's all right. All right, here we go. We're back. Mr. Martinez, good afternoon to you there. You are the good-looking one there. Let us not kid ourselves. You know what I need to get to you? I need to get to you. Different things that we could videotape and stuff like that. Man, I had a ball doing that. So Mr. Martinez and I don't even know what I'm going to really get to today, but just stopped by the Strictly Business event at the Miller Business Center. Wanted to, there you go. Wanted to pick up. Who is that guy? I recognize that man. And by the way, I still look like that. All right, I got the blue. Actually, I got the blue jacket behind me. I haven't worn a tie in a long time, but still got the rest of that. I think I might have a few more gray hairs than that photo. It's not that old. It's pre-COVID. I'll give you that one. It's not that bad. Need to get a new headshot one of these days, but it's good enough. It's good enough. Anyhow, so Miss Martinez and I, we went to a car show. Yeah, that's right, car show. It was a fundraiser it was a fundraiser for somebody that was supporting one of these chronic illnesses, and had a lot of fun doing that. And remember the guy with the blue, like the Bigfoot truck? He's still around, man. He's still around. Goes to all these car shows. That's right. He's out at the Mount Carmel Church in Patchogue, New York on Tuesday nights. That is the car show that is coordinated by Long Island Needs a Drag Strip. And boy, those folks have become friends. Anyhow, the Long Island Needs a Drag Strip team. So they do it at the Mount Carmel Church Tuesday nights. Got started in April. That's just going to continue on until it gets to be cold. Might have started in the cold. It should end in the cold. But he's out there for those things. And really great to see him and so many others. Just had no idea. So many things I had no idea about. That one and the extent and the amount of car shows, it's just amazing. So that car show that he and I went to was pre-COVID. Yeah, right? Pre-COVID. I believe it was pre-COVID. And yeah, and it was at that point in time. So it was like 3 years ago that I really started to take a look at car shows, because I didn't know what to expect. Again, I'm not in that world. Getting closer to being in that world. But I didn't know what to expect. And I was amazed at how many car shows there are and how many car shows that are fundraisers too. Terry Magro, the Magro Foundation, they do a car show, and they have been for years. That is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. It's a fundraiser car show. Really phenomenal. I think the last one they did was in Hicksville. Did one of the big parking lots out there. They've done it at country clubs. Get some beautiful cars showing up. Absolutely beautiful cars. Raising money for great cause. Terrible reason. Great cause. Doesn't it all go like that? The Magro Foundation, what she's doing with the monies that she raises is that money goes to help the families out with regular expenses, not just medical expenses, just regular day-to-day expenses as the family is going through helping one of the family members go through the whole treatment with cancer. You got to look that one up. Look up the Magro Foundation to get the backstory on that one. Maybe we'll have Terry on again at some point to kind of bring that to light. But great people involved in the whole thing, and they do a couple of different fundraisers. But car shows is just amazing. There's so many of them out there for different reasons. Fundraisers are out there for different reasons. Good stuff. So what were we going to talk about today? We had no idea. I literally walked in the house at 12:59, which was 7 minutes ago, and went on. I thought it was going to be 101. That's why we got the title. I didn't get this thing going until 102. But it was over at the Miller Business Center at the Center Ridge Library to visit with them, with Sal, Alex, Elizabeth, the rest of the team at the Strictly Business event. So this is the second year that they've had it outdoors. It was great. Last year was like so super hot. This year was nice. The weather was good. I wore a sweatshirt. I probably didn't need to wear that, but whatever. And a lot of fun. Great people, really great people. So I pulled up some cards, and you know what? Might as well chat about some of the folks that we met along the way. And this piece of paper, man, how cool is that? Geez, we're gonna have to promote this thing. Seems that this guy, Brian Cohen, DTM, and nobody knows what the heck DTM stands for. Actually stands for Distinguished Toastmaster. I'm not a doctor of toe medicine or anything like that. It's a Toastmaster thing. But we're going to be talking about developing and delivering your elevator pitch, that 30-second elevator pitch, which if you speak to a guy named Glenn Rudin, he's going to tell you, it ain't 30 seconds, my friend. You don't get them in like 8 seconds. Maybe it's 6 seconds. I got to catch a base with Glenn. On that one, it's shorter. When do you get people's attention? It's immediate. And it's so many factors that go into that thing, right? It's the event. How do you do it? This one was outside. You got a little bit more time to chat. It was full, not really crowded, plenty of time. So, you didn't have to go, hey, my name is, go down real quick and hope to get their attention. A large trade show with its hundreds and hundreds of people, and you got 2 hours, and it's a different setting. It's a different story. You got to go real quick sometimes and to get people's attention. If you're in a booth and you're behind the table, bad. If you're in a booth and you're in front of the table, good. If you're in a booth and you're in front of the table and you're trying to get people to slow down that are walking down that hallway, you don't have 30 seconds. I venture to say you probably have 6, maybe even less. We'll touch base with Glenn. We'll see what he's got to say on that one. This one was definitely much more of a relaxed thing. A lot of friends there, so it was really good. And outdoors changes the complexion of everything, but it's a lot of things factor into it. How you dress, if you're a vendor or not a vendor, big factor in there too. But you got to know your audience. And there's one gentleman that I ran across over there, in particular, a couple, and when I started that conversation with them, it was knowing what they care about that would get them to talk more, to go and steer that conversation. Kind of like what I was talking about yesterday, right? So yesterday we were chatting about the idea of how to be a good guest. Thinking about it now, if you're a good guest, you're getting the host to talk about the stuff that you want to talk about. You got to be on the right show, and it's much more formalized if you're doing a podcast or a video podcast, with somebody, even if it's written. So it's much more of a structured format than it would be meeting somebody at a trade show or outdoor event or anything like that. But if you meet somebody and you want them to talk about your stuff, you do need to steer that conversation. This sounds terrible, doesn't it? Sounds like it's all about manipulating somebody. It's not. It's finding that common ground. It's finding that common interest, and it's steering. It's not manipulating. Manipulating is a bad word. Bad word. We don't want to use bad words. We want to use steering, coercing somebody to move in a different direction. So I had a couple of conversations with these folks that we've chatted about before. I know where they're coming from. I know where their expertise is. That's the important thing. I know where their expertise is and what word, that's the old word, right? What key word, use that word, key word would get them excited. And I did tell them those quiet conversations. So I'm not going to go into details here, but that's important. So that was a little takeaway from today. So be prepared to steer the conversation your way and get a chance to know who it is that you're talking to. And if you don't know, listen let everybody else speak first, and then you can kind of figure out what you're doing there, what you want to speak to that person about, or if you don't even really want to chat with that person. Hey, look, sometimes the conversation is, wow, I really appreciate what you're doing. I'm just sitting here and it's not really something I would need. There's one business I went up to. It's like, it's nothing I really need or anything like that, but let me just take your card anyhow, because there was somebody that did ask about it. And this is actually one of the networking groups I had this conversation with. Yeah, there was somebody that had mentioned something about joining a group. So, if appropriate, happy to share your information. Oh, that's great. And that was about that. All right. So I'm gonna mention it again. June 14th, we're there. So who else did we meet? We met Twist, Painting with a Twist over in Selden. New ownership, by the way. I think I had spoken about them a while back. We were talking about different kind of fundraising activities that can take place. And this was through one of the groups that I belong to. And the idea there is you got a paint night. And I think at that point in time, they also had a liquor license. I'm not sure if they still do. I can look through this thing, but they have public events, private events, etc. It was a nice way to do a fundraising event. Whatever they charge. I don't know if they even have it in it. Oh, they do bachelorette parties. So my guess is they probably do have a cocktail license in there someplace. But even not, oh, here we go. Uncork and unwind. So my guess is the answer to that would be yes. I'm looking in here and I don't see it, but I'd be surprised. Whatever it is. Anyhow, paint with a twist. So the idea would be, and they don't write what they charge, in here for it, but if they charge $20 a head, you charge $30 a head, you make $10 a head for the nonprofit. That's good. You could do some sort of raffle. You can do whatever you want to do. It's a private party fundraiser. So that was a nice meet. Glad I met with them. I didn't know they changed ownership, and they're located over here in Selden. So that was good. That piece of paper fell on the ground, so we'll read that later. Let's see. This was Middle Country Automotive. Okay. What do you think? Hey, Alex. Good afternoon to you there, my friend. Middle Country Automotive. What do you think you spoke to them about? Vocational careers. Drag racing. Come on, people. Come on. It's not about drag racing. It's about vocational careers. And once you know, I mentioned that, and she said, funny you should say that. And that's when we just stop talking and know, you know what? I'm definitely following up with them, because they went and discussed the whole aspect of how some of the folks they know were destined to work with their hands, and some other folks they know were destined to own something and allow other people to work with their hands. So, which way is the better way? The way that is the best for that student, for that person. Look, you get an automotive business, somebody's working on the car, somebody's doing that kind of stuff, somebody's bringing in the business, and somebody's running the business. Somebody's got to speak to those accountants out there and the marketing folks out there and their landlord and all the rest of that stuff, the insurance and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Somebody's got to be excited about doing that aspect of it. Somebody else has got to be excited about working on the cars, creating something. And she started telling me about some of the cars that come in over there. And this is not, we fix flats. It's a heck of a lot more than that. So bingo on that one. Yeah, it is Cinco de Mayo. Forgot about that. It is Cinco de Mayo. Probably should have wore something appropriate in that respect, but I didn't. And that is that. So here we go. So that's the car company. 15 minutes in. So it was the B&I group. That was the ones we met over there. They meet in Hauppauge at 6:30 in the morning. I belonged to B&I for a while. We met at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was living out east. I had to go into Mineola for that one. Office was in Garden City. That was early. Maybe 6:30. It's the same kind of thing, but they meet early. I don't know if they meet for an hour and a half, but it's there. So they were out there at the Middle Country Library, Miller Business Center, strictly business event. Also, Bob Harrison, Stony Brook University. He is with the Stony Brook Small Business Development Center. Phenomenal conversation with them about the trade show, about the manufacturing committee, about Ron Loveland's efforts, all the rest of that stuff. Just phenomenal. Our friends over at TextWorks, that was another great conversation. Started talking to them about everything that's going on. So we'll have them on the show. Bridgeport and Port Jefferson Steamboat Company, better known as the Ferry for the rest of us. But I had a conversation with them. That was an interesting one, actually, about their clientele. They operate the boat, obviously, that kind of thing. But where are more of the tours and where are more of the people going for these day trips and stuff like that? That was an interesting one. This is something that I found to be kind of fascinating. Not within my, let's say, not within a lot of things, not within my area of expertise, but it's kind of interesting how that one went. We'll go there. Mitch Brendel, he was with the Integrity, or he is actually, he's an expediter with Integrity Expediting. It's a little bit of a tongue twister there. I should know this. Because I think I had actually interviewed him when we were doing the job fair and the business expo over at the Brookhaven Town Hall. So he was in one of the last videos. I think the last time we did that was 2019. It was 2019. Yep, that was when the last time we did that. So that was kind of interesting, to run across that one. Port Jeff Chamber of Commerce. Gotta love those folks there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Is it? You know what? Here's a good example too. That about how to utilize a card. All right. So you have one card. It's very simple, plain, and you can write on the back. Another card, and you tell me if you like this card or not. And I know you're not gonna be able to read it, but the front of the card is the information about the Port Jeff Chamber of Commerce. A nice little photo. The back of it, though, is all the events that are coming up. Can you read that? Probably not. Anyway, it's all the events that are coming up. So you know something? Pretty good. You know what you're going to wind up doing with this card? You're going to wind up keeping that card. I know I'm going to wind up keeping the card. I live in and around the Three Village area. So that would be interesting. So we are at May 5th. Next thing that comes up is they got a meeting at the Masonic Temple. Okay. Sounds on the Sound, June 16th at 6 to 10 p.m. So it's an outdoor event. Used Paint Bar, another event. I don't know. That might be a meeting. I'm not too sure. Chamber networking event. Dragon Boat Race. I've always wanted to make that. Got to write that one down. The Dragon Boat Race. That's September 17th. And then it looks like they have their other meetings that are coming up. But we did have a conversation. Barbara Ransom and Lisa Bloom, the two folks that I spoke to there. Had a nice time talking to Barbara about a TV show we did a long time ago. But they did the Port Jeff Hill Climb. I'm telling you, it's not about drag racing. It's about, vocational trades and stuff like that. But the Port Jeff Hill Climb, and that's not about hiking either. It's the cars racing up a hill. And you might say, in Port Jeff, you might say that, but you really should say that. Because that, my friends, is another one of these historical races that took place on Long Island. And this is where Danfords is. It says Danfords is where it starts, and it goes up towards Belterre, goes up that hill. And they had a hill climb race over there. And it goes back, I don't know when it got started, but we're talking going back to the Vanderbilt race days on that one. I know. Really phenomenal. A lot of history here on the island when it comes to those creative careers that have to do with powered vehicles, whether it be cars, trains. Trains were a big part of Long Island. Big part of Long Island. We did exist. It did exist before the Long Island Expressway. Fastest way to travel was by steam locomotive back in the 1800s. And that steam locomotive took you from Manhattan out through the island, and then you took another boat and you made your way up to Boston. That was the transportation hub of the day. And then, of course, Grumman comes along. Yeah, World War II, obviously, with the planes, everything that was developed that way as it continued on too. That's the Cavalton facility, where they were making the F-14 fighter jets out there. Those runways still exist for purposes I won't go into. Probably mentioned it way too many times. So that's there. Let alone putting that man on the moon thing, right? Growing aerospace. All right, there's a long, big part of that whole thing. Big part. A lot of engineering took place. A lot of creative folks has a lot of with an awful lot of careers and history here on the island. Definitely would be a shame to lose that. Would be fascinating to keep that thing moving along. I think that's the vocational side of things. So anyhow, it is there. Meeting those people today was great. Really was. It was nice to go to an in-person event too. I am a big fan of the visuals of the online stuff. Stony Brook Small Business Development Center had their show online, their meeting online this morning, and then the Miller Business Center had their thing in person. So here's my thing to think about today. And Mike, pleasure joining us. Karen, always a pleasure. Cinco, always a pleasure. It's my wife. I should say more than it's always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure. Cinco de Mayo. Maybe we'll have something that's Mexican. I really wonder. Have something that's Mexican, on that one. But here was a question that came up, and it was an interesting one to kind of, ponder on this one about doing hybrid events. So does it make sense? Does it not make sense? I'm actually not a big fan of the hybrid events. Not really where you're truly making an effort to make it hybrid. It's hard. It's definitely hard. If you have an audience, let's take any meeting, for example, right? You're the speaker. You're the coordinator. You're leading a panel discussion, whatever it is, right? Now, if you're leading, well, maybe it's a little different. If you're leading a panel discussion and your whole interaction as the moderator is with the panelists, and it's solely with the panelists, you're not looking for feedback from the audience, no real Q&A during the presentation. Could you do that as a hybrid event? That one you could do as a hybrid event. I think that one is yes, because your interaction is with the panelists. That's it. You can have that videotaped or live stream. Let's just go live stream, right? It's a hybrid event, so it's live stream. We're not talking a TV show here. We're talking a live event, live stream event. So then it goes out over social media. Anybody that's not there can attend. Anybody that's in the audience obviously is attending. They're listening to the whole thing. That's what's going on. So can that be done in hybrid? That one can be done hybrid. And I think so. Because here's what's going to come up. When do you interact with the audience? And that, my friends, is, I think, the biggest factor in the whole thing. How do you interact with the audience? In the case of a panel discussion, I went to a panel discussion. It was at Stony Brook University. It was led by Joe Campola, actually led that one. It was a Q&A. It wasn't really a panel, but same kind of thing. So what they did during that event, and actually before, when you got there, they gave you pieces of paper. And if you wanted to ask a question, you would write your name on the piece of paper. If you wanted to, you'd write out the question on the piece of paper. And about 3/4 of the way, maybe a little bit longer than that, the ushers would come up the aisles and collect your questions, and they would bring them up over there, and then Joe would read off the questions. So did Joe really interact with the audience? Not really. He just had the interaction with the guest, just doing that. And if it's a panel discussion, it's the same thing. I've done the same thing too, actually, when I did this at Shul. Irving Roth was the guest. He gave a presentation, I interviewed him a little bit. We collected questions from the audience. It was a live audience. I read the questions though. If it was live streamed, would it have been any different? No, I'm still making eye contact with the guest. Same with Joe, making eye contact with the guest. I would still be making eye contact with, if it was a panel discussion, with the panelists and the questions. They still would have been handed to me. And that would have worked either way, whether it's live or not. The panelists would have been making eye contact more with the other panelists and maybe me as moderator more than with the audience. If you're giving a presentation, you solely on stage, can you go and make it a hybrid event? The answer to that is, of course, yes, you can. You can do all of these things. I'm not saying you can't do it. You can do it, but who are you paying attention to? And that would be the thing I would consider most, I would have most on top of my mind if I'm giving that kind of a presentation. Who am I talking with? And I did this once before where I wanted to videotape myself to see, what I could improve upon. It was a stationary camera, just like this. This is a stationary camera, one camera shoot, live to tape. So when I sat in front of the room, I spoke to the audience that was here, and you see me here looking over at the computer. But I spoke to the audience that was here, and I spoke to the audience who was there. And I made my body gestures here, and I made my body gestures there. You know what? It looked terrible on camera. If it was multiple cameras, same thing. And the camera operators, not operator, operators, were able to follow along, then it can be done. But now I'm still talking to the audience in the place. I'm not focusing on the audience on camera. The camera operator is. So it's different. So in my mind, if it's one camera, now I got to worry about looking at the camera and not pay attention to the audience to make that eye contact. If it is multiple cameras, then I can pay attention to the audience, but I'm forgetting the camera. So you on camera just watching a TV show, the equivalent of going that way. So that can work, but you still got to figure out who you're speaking to. What about a panel? What about a discussion group, an actual meeting? You got 10 people showing up in a room. You got 10 people showing up, or whatever the number is, online. And you're trying to include everybody. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that really works. That's really super hard to do. You're trying to facilitate this thing across the board. You're looking on the camera. You got the multiple people up on the screen over there. You're seeing who's got a question. You're trying to read the chat room. Maybe you got somebody helping out with the chat room, seeing if somebody raised their hand online. And then you're trying to look around the room to include everybody and to see what's going on and kind of coerce people to speak. And then you need to have the camera, if it's a stationary camera, just on you because it's your meeting. And the question is asked by somebody else in the room. You got to repeat that question. This way the folks online will know what the question is. Can you do it? Of course. Technology is a beautiful thing. You can do it. You get a room full of camera people. Everybody's mic'd up. Can you do the whole thing? Sure, of course you can. You got a budget for this for a regular meeting? Maybe not. If you do, all the power to you. If you don't, if it's one of these regular meetings, you're not going through all of that. It's probably at least not going through all that whole thing. And it just becomes fragmented. And that's not a way to get a discussion going. So in that case, I'm definitely opposed to doing hybrid meetings in both places. And I brought this up with a couple of places that I do the meetings with, and that discussion has been brought up. Just not a fan of that one. Case of emergency, can you do it? Whatever, you can do. I just don't see that as being effective. I think you're going to lose people left and right. So not a fan of that one. What I am a fan of, though, is connecting with your audience. Tie it back in with that one. How do you connect with your audience when your audience is just a person giving you a business card that you don't know? Find something that they do that has got something remotely with what you do or something you participated in the past. This person, I was able to come up with something and an event that they might be interested in attending. I didn't have to have a whole big conversation with them about a whole bunch of different things. It was just that. Able to end the conversation quickly, because we really had nothing to talk about, and he didn't really have much to talk to me about, except for that common thing. And I'm going to meet him at that event. Now I got a friend at that event. We'll further the conversation there, see where it goes. That's that. Other people, the Port Jeff folks, wow, it's in the backyard, fun. They do a couple of fun events. That dragon boat thing, cool. I might invite, hey, Mr. Martinez, Or Alex, maybe we'll invite Carrie down there. We'll go take some photos of these the dragon boats. Get the big telescopic lens out on that one. See if make it work that way. You know, that'd be a lot of fun. But the Port Jeff Hill climb, those cars, might be a little bit more so there. Had that discussion with them. We got a common friend that actually does a podcast in that area. Might be something there too. But find your audience. Connect with your audience, whether you're just picking up a card or you know them, and then be able to steer that conversation in a direction that perhaps you want to do it. And if you can't figure it out and they can't figure it out, well, you know what? Take the card. Maybe I can introduce you to somebody as it goes along, and then that's it. No reason to force it. It's just going to naturally come. But think about how you can naturally steer that connection, how you can naturally have a conversation with somebody. You're standing up in front of an audience, know your audience. You're doing a group meeting, do a group meeting. Don't do a hybrid group meeting, do a group meeting. Really get a chance to see everybody in that room. Give them a chance to introduce themselves. This way you know where everybody's coming from. Make the connection that way. Keep making that connection. That will help you in everything that you do. Networking and the whole thing, being a good guest, being a good host, being a good referral partner, being a good you. And that's what it's all about. Trying to help everybody become better, because as everybody becomes better, the whole thing becomes more beneficial to the entire community. And that's really what the whole thing's about. Making the community better, one person at a time. Do what you do best, my friends. Speak well, speak often, and live inspired. You just might inspire somebody else along the way. All right, what do you think? Closing photo? Let's see if we can find a photo here. Closing tomato. Now let's go with let's just go with this as the closing photo. I'll get it up over there. Bum, bum, bum. See you at the Miller Business Center, June 14th. Be a lot of fun.